For generations, humanity expanded undisturbed across the stars through FTL travel, until the vast Byzantium Empire cast its shadow over Earth. Declaring humanity's extermination, a colossal planet-cracker armada darkens Earth's skies, but mankind refuses extinction quietly. Unable to match the Byzantium's might ship for ship, humanity's best scientific minds rally around Dr. Bellamy Hill and a radical bioweapon, one that will alter humanity's fate forever. The lab on Mars was deathly quiet, the only sounds Dr. Anna Hill's footsteps echoing off the sterile metal walls. She paused at the thick glass window, looking out at the rust-hued Martian landscape one last time. Would this be the last sunset she'd ever see? Shaking off the thought, she turned back to the gleaming equipment that filled the lab. She carefully lifted a small vial of shimmering blue liquid from the refrigeration unit. Inside was humanity's last hope, a neural virus designed to cripple the minds of the Byzantium fleet crew. The Empire's planet crackers, massive planet-destroying ships, were approaching Earth. Once they arrived, mankind would share the fate of so many worlds that dared resist the Byzantium rule. Anna slid the vial into the delivery system slot with trembling hands. She typed in the coordinates for the Colossus, the Empire's dreaded flagship. Her virus would overwhelm the crew's neural pathways, turning brother against brother in madness and chaos. Pressing the final button, she launched the vial into space. "Our future rests on that one small vial," she whispered. The lab's AI assistant flickered to life beside her. "I estimate the odds of success at approximately 23%, Dr. Hill," said the AI in a feminine voice. "The Byzantium's firewalls are extremely advanced, but your ingenuity has given us a fighting chance." Anna nodded grimly. "If the virus fails to take hold, mankind falls. But we have to try something. The Byzantium has decimated every fleet we've sent against them. Their technology far outpaces ours." She checked the video feed tracking the vial as it streaked toward the Colossus. Within minutes, there would be no turning back. Either her desperate gamble would pay off, or humanity would share the fate of so many planets before it. Walking to the lab's lounge area, she sank down on the couch, remembering how it all started. The Byzantium Empire had expanded out of its home galaxy centuries ago, conquering or destroying every civilization in its path. When they set their sights on the Milky Way, humanity took up arms to resist. Theirs had been a valiant effort, but ultimately futile. The Empire's weaponry was too advanced, their resources too vast. They swatted aside the unified Earth coalition fleets as though brushing away insects. With the cities of Earth now in ruins from orbital bombardment, much of the surviving population had retreated here to humanity's foothold on Mars. This lab was all that remained now between mankind and extinction. A proximity alarm jolted Anna from her thoughts. The Colossus had arrived in system. She rushed back to the monitor. Over the video feed came a haughty voice speaking in the Byzantium tongue. Translation software converted it to English. "Mars settlement, this is Empress Sabak of the Colossus. Your destruction is imminent. If you submit now, your deaths will be quick." Anna gritted her teeth in anger. That contemptuous tone, so assured of victory. She itched to wipe the arrogance away. The vial was seconds from intercept. "Come on, work you damn thing," she muttered. If the virus failed to corrupt the systems, humanity would share the fate of so many before them. Anna bowed her head, hoping beyond hope there was enough human ingenuity in that vial to change their destiny. The weight stretched out agonizingly. Then the AI's calm voice spoke. "Neural virus has breached Colossus firewalls. Cascade failure detected across multiple enemy systems." Anna's head jerked up in disbelief. "It worked! It actually worked!" "First stage appears successful," replied the AI. chaos spreading through the fleet as projected. Anna leapt into the air in triumph. By God, they'd done it. The planet crackers were helpless in the grip of the virus. For this brief moment, mankind had snatched survival from annihilation through grit and scientific brilliance. Then her smile faded. Phase 1 was complete, but the Byzantium still outgunned Earth. Humanity was not out of the woods yet, and if the virus spiraled out of control, it could threaten Mars as well. Grim determination settled on Anna's face. They would savor this small victory today. Tomorrow, the fight for humanity's very existence would begin again. Aboard the Colossus, the engineered neural virus unleashed total chaos. The orderly warship had descended into anarchy, the crew turning against each other in a frenzy of violence. Klaxons blared as the majestic flagship of the Byzantium Empire began to tear itself apart from within. Empress Sabak watched in horror from the command deck as the carefully orchestrated genocide of humanity collapsed into pandemonium. "What is happening? Why do they attack their own?" Sabak yelled, but her advisors stood frozen in shock, unable to explain the bedlam erupting around them. Below decks, the virus corrupted neural pathways at an exponential rate, eroding discipline into murderous madness. Byzantium crew members clawed and bit at each other in a wild release of bloodlust. Autodock facilities were overwhelmed with casualties. Across the fleet, the same scenes of chaos repeated as the virus jumped ship to ship. Hull breaches vented thousands into space. Internal explosions rippled through orderly decks, turning the ships of the once feared armada against themselves. Sabak's ears rang with the endless scream of klaxons. The secure comms were filled with the sounds of slaughter, the honed Ferax warriors of the ground troops reduced to tearing each other limb from limb in uncontrolled fury. This was no ordinary violence. The virus targeted the rigid discipline that gave the Byzantium forces their strength, reducing the would-be conquerors of Earth into a disorderly rabble, infected ships firing wildly on each other. "Quarantine the affected vessels," Sabak ordered desperately, but it was futile. The insidious virus breached every quarantine zone, twisting the crew's perception until brothers in arms saw only enemies surrounding them. The exterminators, the biological weapons reserved for planetary cleansing, would be useless here. At this rate, the once mighty invasion force would be annihilated long before reaching Earth. Fear chilled Sabak's bones. These humans had taken the Empire's greatest weapon and turned it against itself. She thought back to the conquest of Solvang, remembering the look in the human captain's eyes as his primitive fleet burned. Defiance and rage, refusing to yield even in utter defeat. His illogical resistance had merely condemned his people to suffer all the more for their insolence. And now these humans had taken vengeance with an invisible weapon, hijacking the Byzantium's vaunted minds to spread havoc and chaos. For all the Empire's might, their own flawless discipline had become their weakness, unable to adapt to unpredictability. Sabak felt doubt creep in. Could it be that they had underestimated humankind? She shook her head angrily. No, these beings were primitives, clinging to their worthless planet at the edge of the galaxy. The Empire would still crush them in the end. But the taste of unfamiliar fear lingered in Sabak's mouth. This battle was lost, but the war was not over. She would withdraw what remained of the Armada and return with overwhelming force after developing countermeasures. Empress Sabak turned away from the screams and sounds of slaughter erupting across the Colossus. Eyes blazing with cold fury, she vowed that Earth would soon face the full wrath of the Byzantium Empire. The humans would learn that their ingenious defiance had only doomed them to suffer all the more. On Earth, a mood of grim determination took hold. Humanity knew the full force of the Byzantium war machine was coming for them now. The neural virus gambit had failed. The chaos spread uncontrolled, forcing the Empire to sacrifice Mars to contain it. But this only delayed Earth's judgment. In the rubble-choked cities, people fortified buildings and rally points, preparing for a last stand against the vast armada converging on their homeworld. Morale spread through inspirational symbols, defiant flags with the Colossus broken in two, boldly proclaiming, "We will resist," in every shelter and bunker. These banners reminded them that humanity had bloodied the Empire's nose once already. In bunkers and tunnels, the civilian population anxiously awaited news. Inside a fortified command center, military leaders analyzed reports from the surviving deep space scouts. The picture was bleak. The Byzantium fleet gathered at the edge of the solar system, 200 planet crackers, supported by thousands of warships. They had studied humankind's tricks and prepared countermeasures. Earth's end was at hand. Determination gripped the officers, but privately they knew any defense was just a token gesture. When the orbitals began falling, mankind would face extinction on two fronts, bombarded from space or slaughtered in the ground invasion. In an undisclosed location, Dr. Hill worked feverishly to modify her virus into a counterweapon, seeking any way to halt the crack fleet barreling towards Earth. But each variation failed. The Byzantium's upgraded firewalls were impenetrable. There would be no second miracle to save them. Supplies were already growing scarce as the blockade of Mars choked off Earth's population centers and food production there. Once proud cities like New York and Beijing were now shelters against the coming storm. The generals conferred grimly. All options were the same flavor of hopeless. Their defenses and antique aircraft were centuries behind the Empire's. But if these were humanity's final days, they would fight on with characteristic defiance to the last. Anna knew mankind was outmatched, but she refused to surrender. If the Empire wanted Earth, they would pay such blood price that the planet would haunt their memories forever. Humanity had bloodied their nose once through grit and ingenuity. Perhaps courage could triumph again over technology. She drew strength by walking among the people in the bunkers. Young mothers resolutely singing to babies, old men recalling wars fought and won against long odds, teenagers proudly wearing the resistance symbols and talking eagerly of fighting the invasion. These were the enduring spirit of mankind, thought Anna. The Byzantium could take their cities and lives, but never extinguish the flame of human defiance. As long as some survived, humankind would rise again, bloodied but unbroken. Drawing courage from them, Anna redoubled her efforts. The virus variants kept failing, but there must be an answer. She would fight on until the last planet cracker fell dead in space. Outside, news came that the first orbital bombardments had begun. The planet trembled as humanity's judgment day arrived. But within the shelters, a quiet resolve settled. They would resist unto the very end. This day, win or lose, mankind would show the galaxy why Earth would never surrender. The lab shook violently as Dr. Hill struggled to remain standing. On the monitor, she watched the firestorm engulfing Mars as the Byzantium scorched the planet to contain the neural virus. First, the orbital platforms had fallen in flaming ruin. Then the planet crackers moved in to finish the job. She had no illusions. Earth would be next. This was merely a delay, time purchased in blood, not a victory. The virus had spiraled out of control, corrupted now beyond recovery. Reports filtered in that the surge had the reached fleet moments before the exterminators were unleashed. They had contained the chaos at a terrible cost, sacrificing millions of their own. But the Byzantium armada still stood, wounded, reduced in number, but now honed with righteous fury. Their destination was clear. Earth must suffer for this insolence. Her gambit had failed. Rather than stopping the invasion, all she had accomplished was more death. Unless she tried the unthinkable, Mars was lost. But the evacuated population, Millions of precious human lives remained trapped in orbit, with Byzantium warships blocking any escape. She had the power here in this lab to change the equation. Walking to the reactor room, she placed her hand on the manual activation. One twist would overload the experimental fusion core, triggering a massive solar flare. The flare would envelope Mars and its orbit, destroying the Byzantium blockade at the cost of the orbiting civilians. Millions of her own people sacrificed in a desperate bid to clear an escape path. Anna's hand trembled on the dial, slick with sweat. She would be trading millions of human lives today to save billions tomorrow. The logical choice, but it wrecked her heart. A proximity alarm blared. Byzantium landing craft were on approach, coming to eliminate the source of the virus once and for all. Time had run out for indecision. With a wordless scream of anguish, Anna turned the activation dial. A low hum built around her as the reactor went critical, unstable fusion building beyond containment. "Forgive me," she pleaded silently to the helpless millions orbiting overhead. On the monitor, she watched the last shuttle of evacuees streaking up from the atmosphere, racing to outrun the coming cataclysm. Only the fastest ships would clear the Mars orbit line before the flare erupted. Not nearly enough. "Your sacrifice today will be remembered," Anna said solemnly to the icon representing the orbiting vessels. "Because of you, Earth will have a chance. We will not waste it." The lab computer intoned a warning that meltdown was imminent. Outside, the Byzantium landing ships were close enough for her to hear their engines thrum. Anna closed her eyes, finding a strange peace. She had done all she could. The rest was up to fate now. A proximity klaxon screamed as the computer began counting down the final seconds to detonation. Anna looked once more at Mars, committing the image to memory. Then the world turned white as the lab reactor erupted in a silent flash. The Colossus bridge rang with alarms as explosions chained through the dying warship. The flagship of the once invincible Byzantium armada was now a wreck, its spine broken by the raging civil war sparked by the human neural virus. On the command deck, Empress Sabak watched her dreams of conquest unravel. Earth filled the view screen, still defiant. Her planned genocide had collapsed into failure and hubris against human tenacity. Rather than submit meekly to extermination, these primitives had turned the Empire's weapons against them, sacrificing millions of their own people for a chance to survive. Sabak had sorely underestimated humankind's resolve. Now the evacuations were underway, millions fleeing Earth under the cover of Dr. Hill's suicidal gambit. Mars was gone, Sabak's ultimate weapons with it. Her initial confidence lay in ashes around her. There would be no climactic victory over mankind today. Her shattered armada could only harass and probe from orbit, no longer capable of decisively decapitating human resistance in one swift stroke. The broken Colossus shook again as its reactors went critical. Reluctantly, Sabak gave the order, pull the fleet back and prepare for a tactical withdrawal. The words tasted like poison, but she had no choice now. Taking Earth would require a grinding campaign of occupation against suicidal resistance. The humans had forged their world into a fortress and written their defiance across the stars in Byzantium blood. "You have won only a respite," Sabak swore bitterly. "We shall return in force to finish this." But her heart wasn't in the hollow threat. She would not be given another chance after this disaster. The evacuation fleet slipped its bonds as the armada retreated. On the lead ship, Anna watched the Byzantium ships withdraw into the void at last. A muted cheer went up from the exhausted refugees, but Anna took no joy in the victory. Too many lost, too much work remained. This was but one battle in the endless war for civilization's survival. New threats ever lurked in the darkness between the stars. Looking out into the vast cosmos arrayed before them, Anna felt the heavy burden settling upon her shoulders. To unite humanity and rebuild Earth stronger than ever, she must become leader, architect, and guardian. The years ahead would be long and arduous, requiring sacrifice and vision to transcend old-world divisions and forge a new future. But united and resolute, mankind could never be broken. This she vowed before the infinite stars. There amid her people, heart swelling with hope, Anna felt new strength flooding through her. Once merely a scientist, but now the guiding light that would lead humankind forward. Out of the ashes of struggle, they would build a greater tomorrow.